Hello. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria finished the summit this year. The theme for the summit is rethinking manufacturing. It was a manufacturers summit, right? And one of the many people that spoke in that summit was Aliko Dangote, and I am going to be showing his parts of the speech or some parts of the speech he gave in day one. Before we go into that, my name is Owel Hejirika. This is my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, do well to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share it to your friends and people that you believe this would benefit. This is Aliko Dangote. In fact, in my own opinion, he was advising Nigeria on how we can improve our manufacturing sector and industries.
Before I delve into my paper, let me start with some key messages. And please, I would like you to note, import dependence is equivalent to importing poverty, exporting jobs. Anything that you import, you are importing poverty into your nation and you are exporting jobs out. No power, no growth, no prosperity. So unless you have a power, you will not have growth, you will not have prosperity. Similarly, no affordable financing, no growth, no prosperity. There is no industrialization without protection. So ignoring all these facts is what gives rise to insecurity, banditry, kidnapping, and abject poverty in the land. Now, let me dive into the details of my paper, which I would like to present. It is now an established fact that industrialization is an inescapable route to sustainable and inclusive economic growth and human development. I believe we will all know the critical role of manufacturing plays in the modern economy, especially its impacts on other sectors through various linkages, which is job creation, economic diversification, FX generation, government revenues, technology transfer, and adaptation and innovation. Manufacturing remains a key driver in a nation's quest for economic development and self-sufficiency. It is easy to determine the level of economic development, growth, and well-being of a nation by observing its manufacturing sector. It is evident that the strength of a country's manufacturing sector determines its capacity to compete in global trade, which is about 70% in manufacturing goods, according to the available statistics. Countries that have industrialized and have a robust manufacturing sector and able to export manufactured goods are generally able to grow their economies through global trade. A review of the percentage of manufactured goods in the export trade of various countries indicates clearly the relationship between industrialization and the capacity of the manufacturing sector. China is 93%, South Korea is 93%, European Union is 83%, Malaysia 86%, India is 73%, USA is 70%, Egypt 42%, South Africa 37%, just to mention a few. Sadly, Nigeria remains far behind with its manufacturing sector, accounting for less than 5% of its merchandise export in 2022. And this is mainly coming from urea and cement. This is a high level of dependence on commodities export, which Nigeria shares with most African countries, that is which Dr. Akinwumi Adesina described as African paradox. High level of poverty, unemployment, and low productivity despite the possession of enormous natural resources. So let's go to now trajectory of Nigeria's manufacturing sector. Your Excellency, sir, ladies and gentlemen, even a cursory review of the trajectory of manufacturing sector since independence will show clearly that a sector has not always performed fully. Post-independence, and indeed until the late 1980s, we had a thriving and consistently growing and increasingly diversifying manufacturing industry. Our industrialization policies were well thought out and diligently implemented. There was a determined effort to promote investment in manufacturing value addition in local agricultural products such as cocoa, rubber, cotton, granules, etc. across Nigeria. We had a robust industries in Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, and Asaba, employing thousands of workers across cotton textiles value chain. And if you remember, textile unions at that time, they employed almost 270,000 people next to the federal government of Nigeria. So now, if you look at it now, we have these robust industries all over, and then the value chain from ginneries to spinning, weaving, finishing, all these processes is all done before in Nigeria. This supported extensive cotton farming in areas like Katsina, Zamfara, Kano, and Kaduna states. We had various oil mills converting cotton oil seeds, palm kernels, granules, and other into pure vegetable oil. Two of the largest tire manufacturers in Europe, Michelin and Dunlop, established large tire factories, one in Port Harcourt and the other one in Lagos, respectively, using natural rubber from the vast rubber plantations across Rivers, Ogun, and Edo State. Even in the petroleum industry, a policy of value addition to local raw materials was actively pursued during this period. In fact, the main thrust of our Nigeria's third national development plan was in 1975 to 1980. That was the last development national plan that we had. And you can see that this whole thrust was to eliminate fuel queues. You can see since 49 years, we've been fighting this. There's no way you'll be fighting something for 49 years, you will not succeed. Then you have to give up. Because, I mean, during Gawan's administration, they did massively very well, including, trying to set up mobile refineries and co. But the idea was killed. It did not succeed. So now, if you look at it, the first crude oil refinery was established in Port Harcourt in 1965, followed by Warri in 1978, and then Kaduna in 1980. Again, a second refinery was commissioned in Port Harcourt in 1989. Since then, no further capacity was added. On the contrary, all these three plants were allowed to steadily decline, forcing the country to resort to embarrassing import dependency. Apart from the focus on local value addition, the earlier industrial policies also encouraged and supported local entrepreneurs to go into manufacturing, leading to emergence of our trailblazers in the sector, such as the Odutolas, the Adebowales, the Adedoyins, the Dantatas, the Isiaku Rabius, who were very big in textiles, the Chin Okekes, Razak Okoya, that's Eleganza, if you can remember, the Onafocons, which is large group, to do, cocoa processing, and many others. In the mid-70s, following this end of the Civil War, and encouraged by the massive inflow of oil revenues, government also adopted a policy to which you call import substitution, promoting industries such as automobile assembly, flour milling, and many fill and finish pharmaceutical industries. But we actually have to be very serious. Nigeria was way ahead of Morocco in terms of setting up automobile assembly. Today, as we speak, the highest revenue, foreign exchange revenue earner for Morocco is what? Is export of vehicles. But our own were killed totally. But they now earn $13 billion out of export of vehicles, more than the phosphates. Because phosphate to Morocco was like oil to us. But that has been overtaken. Well, many of these private investment and others were set up as a joint venture with the federal government of Nigeria, such as the assembly plants. This includes these industries of the 1970s and 80s grew and thrived, creating thousands of jobs for Nigerians and also enabling the development of the MSME sectors, further boosting job creation and growth. The assembly plants, for instance, encouraged and supported many local content MSME, including batteries, plastics, and the rest of them. As a result, manufacturing sector sustained a steady growth in the 1970s and early 80s, despite the impact of the Civil War and global economic crisis of the 1980s. But as all of us can testify, our manufacturing sector has declined over the years and has largely failed to provide the job it was expected to create for our teeming youth. It has also increasingly lost the strong linkages it once had with our agricultural and mining sectors, which, if it had continued, would have resulted in increasing food security and energy self-sufficiency. We may all recall thriving manufacturing concerns across the country like Stair in Bauchi, Leyland in Ibadan, Anamco, which is Mercedes in Enugu, Fiat in Kano, Volkswagen in Lagos, Peugeot in Kaduna, Oshobo, Delta, Jos, Katsina Steel Rolling Mills, Jeba Paper Mills, etc. These and more and many others have actually since joined the graveyard of dead manufacturing concerns. Clearly, therefore, there's an urgent and imperative need for us to rethink our manufacturing. So now we go to the next step, which is rethinking manufacturing, which is the main theme of the day. There are, no doubt, many causes for the failure of our manufacturing sector to meet the expectations of our people. Let me use my own personal experience to illustrate. When textile businesses were booming, we went and set up our own textile mills in Kano called Dangote General Textile Mills. And then we massively invested billions at that time. That wasn't enough. We went through and bought the foreign shareholder of Nigerian Textile Mills, which was a textile mills set up for the Western region by Chief Awolo, and that was 1960. But at the end of the day, there was no government protection. We had to shut down both the two factories. In fact, we had to delay because the issue is that the biggest challenge we had was with the Nigerian textile mills, because most of their workers, they have worked there for 25, 30 years. So paying their pension and gratuity was difficult for us. Luckily for us, somebody now came around that he wanted to buy our bank. We had Liberty Merchant Bank. So by the time we sold Liberty, I was very happy. I cashed out 1.2 billion. But after cashing out 1.2 billion, the textile industry consumed 985 million to pay pension and gratuity just to get out of the business. And that is how we now got out of the business. We burnt our fingers, and that is why when even President Obasanjo asked us to come back and invest in textiles, I told him, Mr. President, I will do whatever you want us to do, but textiles, no, thank you. The second one now is to do with motor vehicles. And I said, we have started before Algeria, Morocco. Morocco today is the highest foreign exchange earner. But what happened? One day, out of the bureaus, we have invested, everything was going well. The Comptroller General of Customs then, not the current one is a good man. Hamid Ali just wrote a memo to President Buhari that, look, he is losing revenue. So please, it is better to allow all these vehicles to come rather than them to go to Republic of Benin. Instead of protecting people, he now destroyed that industry by now making sure that, yes, all of us, majority of us were asked to go and invest $100 million. In fact, our own was just commissioned last month to do CKD of 10,000 trucks. But as far as I know, it is a dead business. We also rushed with some governors from the north, and we opened up the Peugeot. Peugeot 2 was also killed. So we have to be careful. In fact, the only thing that can make people to go into industrialization is the protection of the industries. Mr. Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you can see today in our own sector of cement, all our tax holidays were withdrawn about 4 years ago. But because government is serious, there's protection in the business. As we speak today, we are building brand new 6 million metric tons at about 900. Despite the lack of dollars, we are spending $900 million to build 6 million plant in Itori. In fact, it has gone far, and we hope by end of next year we'll be able to finish. So it's not about incentives. No, it's about protection. There's no country that does not protect their own industry. But in Nigeria now, somebody will come and now say, okay, fine, yes, I have something to sell. My car is assembled in Nigeria. Yes, it's 40 million. Somebody said that, no, give me the one assembled in Romania. I'd rather pay 45. Why? It doesn't make sense. So it is better we learn how to have what you call a circular economy, where all activities are within. Bankers will get their own, manufacturers will get their own, people who are even selling food, everybody will now get, but the things will remain internally and create massive economic activities. So, Your Excellency, I trust this summit will identify all the critical issues, deliberate on the challenges, and prosper how to reverse the trend. For me, the most critical issues to address is government policy and government attitude to investments and investors in the sector. I intend to focus on this in the next of my keynote address, which is protecting and supporting industries. I believe a primary role and responsibility of government is not only to promote investment and encourage investors in manufacturing, but also to ensure that those investments are nurtured and protected to grow and thrive. Industrial manufacturing entities are not like trading entities. In every economic regime, including the most advanced, investment projects in manufacturing and industrial sectors need time and a conducive environment for them to mature, build capacity and scale to become competitive against those in older and more matured markets. But since the mid-1990s, non-industrialized countries and their leaders have been they've been discouraged from protecting and supporting such investments and forced to expose them for unfair competition from stronger, older competitors in their own internal markets, even before the newcomers are commissioned. Yet, these same older, bigger players are well supported in their home markets. Let me give a few examples. Mr. Vice President, sir, the U.S. government blocked the sale of U.S. steel to Nippon Steel of Japan, despite the good relationship between Japan and the U.S. U.S. government, both the Congress and the President, they blocked the sale. They don't have one single share, but because they've taken it that, no, this is a national asset. You, the owners, cannot go and sell national assets. Then, at the same time, the U.S. government, that is the Congress, and also the President at that time, blocked the sale of 6 U.S. ports management companies to Dubai Port World. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. Then again, the U.S. government also put a restrictions of Chinese cranes at U.S. ports. Again, U.S. government imposed last month 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, 50% tariff on semiconductors, 50% tariff on medical products, solar panels, etc. Why? Because they want to protect their own industries, which we don't do here. The restrictions of Russian gas supply to Europe, compelling European countries to turn to coal, despite very loud voices against fossil fuel. You can see now when there was a problem between them and Russia, instead of them to use Russia's gas, even Britain, they opened all their old coal mines to produce coal for the safety of their own industries. The distribution again of $39 billion in subsidies by the U.S. government as an incentive for companies to produce microchips locally. Asia achieved their significant level of industrialization by pursuing industrial policies where the government played an active role in nurturing and supporting local companies. They then subsequently leveraged this success to attract foreign direct investment into free trade zones. Let me clearly state that by government protection of industry, I do not mean short to medium term. Regulatory mechanisms such as tax holidays and other incentives which have their place in industrial policy should be applied when necessary to mitigate investment challenges. I'm concerned with a long-term policy framework which ensures that investors can invest with understanding that the industry will in the long run be regarded as a national asset and not just investors' assets, so that when it is threatened either by external forces or by changes in environment beyond the control of the individual operators, government will take appropriate action to protect investors and support them to survive the threat. Almost all countries did this in response to the COVID threat. Those in the pharmaceutical industry may well remember how India protected and supported the pharmaceutical industries. If you remember, one time we couldn't get COVID vaccines because India stopped the export of their COVID vaccines, said that no, their citizens' life first before anybody's life. So if we adopt such a policy and government attitude towards textile industries, tire industry in the 80s and early 90s, perhaps our economy today will still be benefiting from the job creation capacity of all these industries. Or if we had adopted the attitude of our refining industry, Nigerians will not today be too anxious about Dangote refinery. I'm aware that the Bretton Woods Institute have confused some of our economists about the word protection, to the extent that some of them think it is blasphemy, a word that should not be uttered in good company. But how did China, South Korea, India, and several other Asian countries emerge as a strong economies and a threat to the existing world economic order? Because what they did not follow that advice. They shut their doors. They have their own internal policies. They massively produce goods. They feed their own. Citizens. They feed their own market. The excess capacity is what now they are attacking us with. So we are often told that protecting your industries make your country uncompetitive. This is pure fiction. That's not true. It is quite the reverse. I say you cannot be competitive unless you protect and support your own industry. In the past, Nigeria was not competitive in cement production. Up to 2007, Nigeria was producing less than 2 million tons of cement per annum. Today, we have about 60 million tons of production in capacity and another 9 million under construction. That is the industry, not Dangote, the industry. The foundation for this success story was laid by an administration which decided to extend full support and protection to Nigeria's cement industry. And I know that Minister Aganga is here. When he was minister, at a point, maybe 1,000 trips by some people, went to him to destroy the industry, but luckily he did not heed to their call. So what is happening? So today, we are among the 10 most competitive in cement producers in the world, and the biggest cement producer and cement exporter in Africa. That is our record in 2023. So Dangote cement alone, just to tell you the benefits. So sometimes when people talk about, tax holiday, people are always against tax holiday. But tax holiday is 5 years and it will finish. If you look at it, our own tax, Dangote cement tax alone paid more taxes in 2023 than the entire major banking industry. And as we speak today, daily, what we are paying, to be precise, 650 million naira in VAT on a daily basis, Saturdays, Sundays inclusive. So it is also often suggested that protecting your industries leads to monopoly. Again, this is false. You create the environment for monopoly when new investors are not willing or not allowed to invest in the industry. But the field is open. Anybody can come and invest. In asking for protection, I am not asking government to prevent others from investing in sector or in industry. Quite the opposite. I'm recommending that government policy should support, protect existing industries so that others will know that their investments will also be protected. Is there any better incentives than that? I don't think so. So I humbly submit that an industrial policy that assures investors of support and protection is the greatest incentive for all investors, both local and foreign. It is a common knowledge that foreign investors only come when they see that local investors are also doing well. What attracts foreign investment is not government agencies or president or going out there to seek for foreign investment. No, what attracts foreign investment is domestic investment. No domestic investment, no foreign investment will come in. Furthermore, I'm convinced that when government policy becomes more supportive and protective, investors will be more willing to collaborate and partner with government in resolving the other challenges such as infrastructure deficit, market instabilities, and macroeconomic issues such as inflation and foreign exchange volatilities. Before I go to the conclusion, I want to say one or two things. Mr. Vice President, Your Excellency, I know that today we're battling with a very high interest rates. This interest rate is now saying that we should fight inflation. I'm not an economist. I'm just a local businessman. But, Your Excellency, the other countries, why did they jack up interest rates? Because during COVID, the G7 countries pumped money into their economies to the tune of 18.9 trillion. So their economies were over, they were over, they were evaporated with so many things. So there was so much of money chasing few goods. So if you have so much of money chasing fewer goods, it means that everything is going to go up. But, Your Excellency, during COVID, we did not, and I repeat, we did not reflect any economy at all. We didn't do anything. The only thing that we did was sharing of palliatives. I'm not talking about Nigeria now. I'm talking about Africa in general. There's no any African country that came. Maybe some few have actually given lower interest rates. But right now, Your Excellency, at 30%, there's no way anybody can create jobs. If interest rate is 30%, there won't be any job creation because we're actually stifling growth. So interest rate can remain 30, but then no growth will happen unless that interest rate goes down. So, my conclusion, Your Excellency, is that let me therefore conclude by reiterating that Nigeria has all it takes to develop and sustain a globally competitive manufacturing sector. But to do so, we must rethink our industrialization policy. We must look to leading countries in the West and the East who are actively protecting their domestic industries. We must similarly enact policies to protect our domestic industries and nurture them into homegrown champions that will create jobs and prosperity we desperately need. The time to rethink our industrial policy is now. Thank you, Your Excellency.